Ladies and gentlemen, there is a kind of strength that doesn't come from victory, applause, or success. It comes from pain, deep soul, crushing pain. It comes from being broken, misunderstood, and used, yet choosing to rise again. I'm talking about the rare power of a broken empath. You see, empaths, those rare souls who feel deeply, who carry the emotions of others in their own hearts, are often the ones who suffer the most. They are the silent healers, the quiet listeners, the ones who love too deeply and forgive too quickly. And because of that, they are the ones who often get shattered the hardest. But here's the truth: when an empath breaks, something miraculous happens. When they go through darkness and somehow survive it, they awaken. The breaking point where the old self dies at first, the darkness feels like death. The empath loses trust, faith, and the will to give. They stop believing in kindness because the world used their kindness as weakness. They stop feeling safe because their heart was their biggest vulnerability. But that breaking point, that unbearable pain, is not the end. It's the birthplace of transformation, because when an empath finally reaches the bottom, something inside whispers, "No more." That's the moment they stop living for others and start living through themselves. The silence that heals after the storm, there is silence. An empath who's been broken withdraws, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. They start to observe instead of absorb. They learn to listen without carrying the weight. They learn that saying no is not cruelty, it's self-respect. This silence is sacred. It's where healing begins. It's where an empath learns that boundaries are not walls, they are gates that protect the soul. The awakening of intuition when an empath survives darkness. Their intuition becomes sharper than ever before. They can feel the unspoken, sense the hidden, and read the energy of a room within seconds. They no longer trust words, they trust vibrations. They can spot a lie in a smile and truth in tears. This heightened intuition is the gift that comes from suffering. It's what separates a broken empath from the rest. They are no longer just emotional, they are spiritually aware. The power of detachment, one of the rarest powers a healed empath gains, is detachment. They learn that they can love without losing themselves. They can care deeply without drowning. They can help others and still choose themselves first. Detachment doesn't mean they stop feeling, it means they stop bleeding. They love from a place of strength, not sacrifice, and that is power in its purest form, turning pain into purpose. A broken empath doesn't come back as the same person. They return as a warrior of light. They use their pain as fuel to guide, to inspire, to protect others who are walking through the same darkness. Their scars become stories, their wounds become wisdom, their tears become teaching. They don't just survive, they transform. And their very existence becomes a reminder that even the kindest hearts, when broken, can become the strongest sources of light. The final realization: you are never weak. Let me tell you something. My friends, the world may call you too sensitive. They may say, you care too much. But sensitivity is not a flaw, it's your superpower. You didn't break because you were weak. You broke because you loved deeply in a world that often doesn't know how to love back. And yet you survived, you learned, you evolved. Now your compassion is not naive, it's wise. Your love is not blind, it's discerning. And your soul, it's no longer fragile, it's unbreakable. So, to every empath who has been broken and rebuilt themselves, remember this: you are not the same person who entered the darkness. You are the light that walked out of it. And that is the rarest power in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, there are two kinds of strength in this world. One comes from winning, from applause, success, validation, and the other comes from pain, from breaking and still choosing to rise again. This second kind of strength is rare, and it belongs to the broken empath, the one who has felt too much, cared too deeply, and been hurt beyond words, yet still chooses light over bitterness. This speech is for those souls, the breaking point where innocence meets reality. Every empath begins as pure light, trusting, loving, open-hearted. They see goodness in everyone because their heart cannot imagine darkness, but life has a way of testing such hearts. It introduces them to betrayal, rejection, and manipulation. The world doesn't understand their softness, so it calls it weakness. And one day that heart breaks. That's the moment innocence meets reality. It's painful, brutally painful, because the empath realizes not everyone feels the way they do. Not everyone loves as genuinely or cares as deeply, but here's the paradox: when the empath breaks, their awakening begins. Because breaking doesn't destroy them, it refines them. The illusions die, but the soul survives, wiser, clearer, sharper. The empath is no longer naive, they become aware. And awareness, my friends, is the first step toward real power. The silence that reshapes the soul. After the chaos, after the heartbreak, comes silence. The empath retreats not out of fear, but to find themselves again. They stop running toward people who drain them. They stop explaining themselves to those who never listened. In that silence, they meet the one person they had been avoiding all along: themselves. They begin to see their own worth without needing someone else to confirm it. They learn that solitude isn't loneliness, it's sanctuary. This silence becomes a sacred ground where the empath rebuilds their spirit brick by brick. No noise, no pretending, just truth. And slowly, the fragments of the old self start turning into a stronger version, forged in stillness. The world sees it as withdrawal, but in reality, it's rebirth. Intuition, the vision that sees beyond eyes. When a heart breaks, something opens, the third sense of the soul. An empath who has walked through darkness develops a perception beyond logic. They start to feel energy, not just hear words. They can sense deceit behind a friendly tone, or honesty hidden in quiet eyes. Their intuition becomes razor sharp, not because they were born gifted, but because pain trained them. You see, pain cleanses perception. When you've been lied to, you learn to value truth. When you've been drained, you recognize toxic energy before it touches you. This intuition is the empath's armor and compass. It doesn't just protect them, it guides them. They stop depending on explanations. They start trusting their energy. And once an empath learns to follow that inner knowing, life begins to unfold with divine precision. They no longer chase, they attract, because intuition has made them magnetic to truth and allergic to pretense. The power of emotional detachment, perhaps the rarest skill a broken empath develops, is detachment. Not coldness, not indifference, but emotional mastery. They finally understand that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself, that caring deeply doesn't require constant self-sacrifice. They learn to give without emptying themselves, to help without being consumed. This is the moment when the empath transforms from a rescuer to a teacher. They realize not everyone is ready to be saved, and it's not my job to drown with them. They begin to set boundaries, firm, calm, sacred, and for the first time in their life, they choose peace over pleasing.